Your pocket change could be hiding treasure. The 1975, 1985, and 1995 Roosevelt dimes may look ordinary, but rare mint errors, full band strikes, and high-grade coins from these years have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Always check your dimes. You never know when you might be holding a collector's jackpot. In the world of coin collecting, there are moments that redefine the meaning of rarity, moments when a simple coin, one that most of us would never even glance at twice, turns out to be one of the most valuable treasures in American numismatic history. One of those legendary stories centers around the 1975 U.S. Roosevelt one-dime coin error, a coin that has become almost mythical among collectors for its extraordinary rarity, mysterious origins, and the staggering value it can command when found. You may have handled thousands of dimes in your life, but if you ever came across a certain version of the 1975 dime, one missing a tiny detail, you could be holding a coin worth tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. The 1975 Roosevelt dime might look like any other. It features the familiar portrait of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse, designed by John R. Cynic, with the word liberty on the left, "In God We Trust" below the chin, and the date 1975 positioned neatly at the lower right. On the reverse, you'll see the torch, olive branch, and oak branch, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength, surrounded by the inscriptions United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, and the denomination 1 dime. Millions of these coins were produced that year, and for most, that's the end of the story. But within that vast ocean of identical coins, a few rare errors emerged, and one, in particular, has become one of the most famous error coins in American history. To understand what makes the 1975 dime so special, we have to rewind to the operations of the U.S. Mint in the mid-1970s. At that time, dimes were being struck at 3 main facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint produced circulation strikes without mint marks. Denver coins bore a small D, and San Francisco handled proof coins with an S mint mark. Proof coins are made for collectors, not circulation, and are struck with extra care on polished dies, producing brilliant, mirror-like surfaces and razor-sharp details. Each proof coin is also carefully inspected before leaving the mint, which makes what happened in 1975 even more astonishing in that year, as the San Francisco Mint was producing proof sets that included a 1975 S dime. A small but shocking error occurred. A few proof dimes were struck without the S mint mark. These coins became known as the 1975 No S Roosevelt dime, and they would go on to become some of the most famous and valuable modern U.S. coin errors ever discovered. To appreciate just how rare this error is, consider this. Every single proof dime struck at the San Francisco Mint is supposed to have an S mint mark, located just above the date. It's a mark of pride and precision, a way to identify where the coin was made. Yet, due to a minting oversight, a handful of dies used to strike the 1975 proof dimes were missing the mint mark. This means that when they were used, the resulting coins bore no indication that they were proof coins from San Francisco. These coins look exactly like a regular 1975 dime at first glance, but the proof surfaces give them away, and the missing S mint mark transforms them from ordinary to nearly priceless. How could such an error even happen? During the production of proof coins, the mint mark is manually punched onto the die before the die is hardened and used to strike coins. In rare cases, a die can escape this process, meaning it lacks the mint mark entirely. When such a die is used in the high-quality proof coin presses, every coin it strikes is missing that critical detail. Because proof coins undergo careful inspection, most mint mark errors are caught and destroyed before they ever leave the facility. But somehow, in 1975, at least 2 No S dimes slipped past every safeguard. These coins made their way into sealed proof sets, which were then sold to collectors through mail orders. For years, no one noticed anything unusual. It wasn't until collectors began examining their proof sets closely that someone realized their 1975 dime didn't have an S. Word spread rapidly through the numismatic community, and the 1975 No S Roosevelt dime became an instant legend. To this day, only 2 confirmed examples of the 1975 No S Roosevelt dime are known to exist. That's right, only 2. Both are in the hands of private collectors, and both have fetched astronomical sums when sold at auction. One of these coins was first discovered in a government-issued proof set and sold at auction for around $350,000. The other example, graded PR68 by the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, later sold for an even more jaw-dropping amount, reportedly over $450,000. That means the 1975 NOS Roosevelt dime is not just rare. It's one of the rarest and most expensive dimes in U.S. history. But that's not the only type of error from the 1975 dime that collectors have sought after. While the NOS proof version is the crown jewel, other fascinating mint errors have been documented among circulation strikes as well. Some 1975 dimes have been found with off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing and a blank crescent of metal remains visible. These off-center errors can vary in severity. A minor one might only be worth $9,550 or $11,100, but a dramatically off-center dime showing 40 to 60% of the blank surface with a visible date can easily fetch several $100s. Other 1975 dimes display broad strike errors, where the coin was struck outside of its retaining collar, causing the edges to expand outward. These coins appear larger and slightly flattened but still retain the full design. Depending on the condition and how noticeable the error is, broad strike 1975 dimes can bring in between $32,275 and $35,200 among collectors. Another fascinating type is the clipped planchet error, where a small curved section of the coin is missing because the blank metal disc was improperly cut from the sheet of metal. These coins have a unique crescent-shaped missing piece and can be quite collectible. A cleanly clipped 1975 dime can be worth around $26,150 or more depending on its appearance and luster. Then there's the possibility of double die errors, where elements of the design, such as the date, the word Liberty, or Roosevelt's profile, appear slightly doubled due to misalignment during the hubbing process of the die. Although major double die examples for the 1975 dime are rare, minor instances have been reported, and these can still bring impressive value to collectors who enjoy hunting for them. Each of these errors tells a different story about how coins are made and how even the most tightly controlled processes can produce unexpected results. For collectors, that unpredictability is part of the thrill. When a coin like the 1975 NOS dime appears, it shakes the numismatic world, reminding everyone that mistakes can become masterpieces, and that history sometimes hides in plain sight. Now imagine this. You're at a coin show or sorting through an old family proof set, and you notice something strange about your 1975 dime. There's no S above the date. The coin gleams with the mirror-like finish of a proof, but it's missing that tiny mint mark. Could it be? Could you be holding one of the only two known examples of one of the rarest U.S. coins ever minted? That single realization could change your life. It's the kind of discovery every collector dreams about. The possibility that a forgotten coin in a box or drawer could be worth more than a luxury car or even a small home. Even circulation error dimes from 1975 can hold surprising value. Coins with dramatic off-center strikes or strong die clashes, where the designs from both sides of the coin are imprinted faintly on each other, are highly sought after. While not worth hundreds of thousands, these coins still capture the imagination and excitement of collectors worldwide, with some examples selling for hundreds of dollars. The story of the 1975 dime is not just about value, it's about fascination. It's a reminder that even in a world dominated by technology and precision, imperfections still find their way in. These imperfections, rather than diminishing the coin's worth, make it special. Each error coin is a frozen moment of history, a small but powerful testament to the unpredictable nature of human craftsmanship. For collectors, the key to finding these treasures lies in awareness. If you own proof sets from the 1970s, take them out and examine them closely. Use a magnifying glass to inspect the mint marks. Look for doubling, clipping, or off-center features. The difference between an ordinary coin and an extraordinary one can come down to the smallest of details. Over the decades, the 1975 dime error has maintained its place as one of the most iconic U.S. coin mistakes ever made. The NOS dime, in particular, stands as a holy grail of modern numismatics. Its existence continues to inspire treasure hunters, collectors, and even casual coin enthusiasts to take a second look at the change in their pockets. The 1985 U.S. Roosevelt one dime might appear, at first glance, as just another small piece of American change, something most people wouldn't think twice about dropping into a vending machine or letting sit in a drawer for years. Yet, within the world of numismatics, This unassuming 10-cent coin carries stories that go far beyond its face value. Some 1985 dimes, because of rare minting errors, have sold for hundreds and even thousands of dollars. These are not ordinary coins. They are little pieces of metal that somehow escaped the strict quality controls of the U.S. Mint, surviving decades only to reemerge as collectibles worth far more than anyone could have imagined. To understand what makes the 1985 Roosevelt dime special, we first need to remember where it fits in the long and fascinating history of the American dime. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, just 1 year after President Franklin D. Roosevelt's death. The design, created by John R. Sinek, was meant to honor the man who guided the nation through the Great Depression and World War II. The obverse features a left-facing profile of Roosevelt, while the reverse shows a torch flanked by olive and oak branches, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. BY 1985. The dime had already been in circulation for nearly 40 years, and the coin's metal composition had changed significantly from its original design. Dimes minted before 1965 were made of 90% silver, but the rising cost of silver forced the mint to switch to a copper-nickel-clad composition. So, by the mid-1980s, every dime consisted of a pure copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel, giving it that characteristic silver-like color. Although the metal content made these modern dimes less intrinsically valuable, errors from these years can still fetch huge prices because of how rarely they occur. The 1985 Roosevelt dimes were minted at two primary locations, Philadelphia and Denver. Philadelphia dimes carried no mint mark, while those struck in Denver bore the familiar D mark on the obverse, just above the date. The San Francisco Mint also produced proof dimes for collectors, marked with an S. These proof coins were specially struck with polished dies and planchets, designed to have mirror-like fields and frosted devices, intended only for collectors and never meant for circulation. Yet, even with the high precision of modern minting technology, errors still managed to find their way into the public's hands. And that's where the story of the 1985 dime becomes so intriguing. One of the most visually striking errors found on 1985 dimes is the off-center strike. When a blank planchet isn't seated correctly between the dies, part of the design ends up missing, with a blank crescent along the edge. Slight off-centers of 5 to 10% are fairly common and may bring $18,950 to $24,950. But coins struck 40 to 60% off-center while still showing the full date can command prices between $14,100 and $15,250. A dramatic example, off-center by nearly 75%, sold for over $16,300 at auction, mainly because of its clear date and even strike quality. Another fascinating minting mistake that appears on 1985 dimes is the broad strike error. When the collar that shapes the rim of the coin fails to hold the planchet tightly during striking, the metal spreads outward. This creates a coin that appears wider and flatter than normal, with no visible reeded edge. These broad-struck examples are popular among collectors for their odd shape and can sell $4,141, $40,000 to $16,120 depending on how severe the error is and the condition of the coin. Clipped planchets are also known among 1985 dimes. This occurs when the metal sheet from which planchets are punched overlaps during the punching process, resulting in blanks that are missing a crescent-shaped piece. A small curved clip might bring around $10,300 to $12,600, but a double clip, where two separate clips are visible on opposite sides of the coin, can easily reach $12,100 or more. One spectacular example of a 1985 D dime with a triple clip sold for nearly $14,200 because of its sharp strike and overall rarity. There are also examples of 1985 dimes that were struck on the wrong planchet, one of the most dramatic types of mint error. For instance, a dime struck on a cent planchet will appear slightly smaller, copper-colored, and weigh less than usual. These wrong planchet strikes are extremely desirable because they combine two different denominations in one piece of metal. A 1985 dime struck on a copper cent planchet once fetched over $21,000 at auction. Another example, struck on a foreign planchet intended for another country's coinage, sold for around $28,800, proving that such errors are far more than curiosities. They're valuable artifacts of the mint's production process. Die breaks, cracks, and cuds are other fascinating errors collectors seek out. Over time, the dies used to strike coins can wear down or crack, and when a piece of the die near the edge breaks away, the resulting coin shows a raised blob of metal called a cud. The 1985 dime is known for several such die breaks. A small die crack might appear as a thin raised line across Roosevelt's face, while a larger cud could cover part of the rim or lettering. Depending on size and prominence, cud errors from 1985 can be worth anywhere from $14,150 to $16,250. Another captivating error type is the struck-through variety. This happens when foreign material, such as grease, thread, wire, or even a small piece of metal, comes between the die and the planchet during striking. If grease fills the recessed areas of the die, parts of the design can appear weak or completely missing. Some 1985 dimes have been found with the torch or motto partially obscured by grease. These coins can bring $9,525 to $9,800, while more dramatic struck-through objects, such as thread or wire impressions, have fetched several $100s due to their eye-catching appearance. Doubling errors are perhaps the most well-known among casual collectors, and they do appear in the 1985 dime series. Doubled dies occur when the die itself is engraved twice at slightly different angles, causing the coin's features to appear doubled. On the 1985 dime, doubling is sometimes seen on the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," or the date. Genuine doubled dies, unlike mechanical or strike doubling, can command significant premiums. Strong examples with visible doubling on multiple letters can sell for $20,200 to $22,400, depending on sharpness and condition. Proof 1985's Roosevelt dimes, though struck with extra care, are not immune to errors either. Some proof coins show die polishing lines, frosted over-polished areas, or even minor doubling. A 1985 proof dime with deep cameo contrast and a visible strike-through sold for over $35,500. Proofs with unique minting flaws are rare because they are subject to more stringent quality checks, but that scarcity makes them all the more valuable when they do slip out. Auction records from the last 2 decades highlight how desirable these coins have become. In 2021, a 1985 D-dime struck 65% off-center sold for $38,285. Another, a Philadelphia minted dime with a broad strike and partial collar, realized $22,150. A particularly stunning 1985 dime struck on a copper planchet sold for $31,250 in 2022. Even a minor clipped planchet example graded MS65 by PCGS fetched $10,090, showing that error coins from this year have steady demand. It's not just about the errors themselves. It's about the story they tell. Each one represents a moment when something went wrong inside one of the most precise industrial systems in the world. The U.S. Mint operates massive coining presses capable of striking hundreds of coins per minute, with computerized systems ensuring quality and consistency. Yet, every now and then, one coin escapes with a flaw, a reminder that perfection, even in a machine-driven process, isn't always guaranteed. The year 1985 itself sits at an interesting point in numismatic history. The Mint was refining its clad coinage process, adjusting die steel hardness, and improving press calibration to reduce errors. As a result, genuine 1985 error dimes are not extremely common, which adds to their desirability today. Collectors appreciate that these coins represent a snapshot of modern minting before the more advanced quality control systems of the 1990s took hold. For collectors, the thrill lies in finding one of these errors in circulation. Imagine opening an old jar of coins, sorting through the dimes, and spotting one with an oddly wide rim, missing letters, or an off-center strike. That small moment of curiosity can quickly turn into excitement when you realize it's a genuine mint error from 1985. What was once worth 10 cents suddenly becomes a piece of history, and a potentially valuable one at that. Of course, not all unusual-looking coins are valuable mint errors. Post-mint damage, such as scratches, dents, or exposure to heat, can often mimic the appearance of legitimate minting mistakes. The 1995 United States Roosevelt one-dime coin might seem like just another small piece of change that most people overlook or toss into a drawer, but for collectors, this year's dime holds a surprising number of secrets and hidden treasures. Among the billions minted that year, a few 1995 Roosevelt dimes turned out to be anything but ordinary, carrying rare and fascinating mint errors that transformed their humble value of 10 cents into hundreds, even thousands of dollars at auction. These mistakes, though unintended, have become prized possessions for numismatists and enthusiasts alike, proving once again that even in a modern minting era, perfection remains elusive. The Roosevelt dime has been in production since 1946, designed by John R. Sinek, the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint at the time. It was created to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt after his death, largely because of his connection to the March of Dimes campaign against polio. The design features Roosevelt's left-facing portrait on the obverse, with the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and the Year of Mintage. On the reverse, a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch symbolizes liberty, peace, and strength, values closely tied to Roosevelt's leadership. BY 1995. The dime was struck in both Philadelphia and Denver, with mint marks P and D respectively, while San Francisco produced proof versions with the S mint mark for collectors. The coins were composed of a copper-nickel clad over a pure copper core, a standard that had been in place since 1965, when silver was removed from circulating dimes. Billions of 1995 dimes were made that year, but hidden among them were coins that didn't quite meet the mint's high standards. And these are the ones that continue to capture the attention of collectors around the world. One of the most common yet valuable 1995 dime errors is the off-center strike. This occurs when the planchet, the blank metal disc, is improperly fed into the press, causing the design to be stamped off-center. The result can range from a slight misalignment to an extreme case where much of the design is missing and part of the coin is blank. A minor off-center error showing only a small shift might fetch $22,225 to $25,550. But coins that are 40% to 60% off-center while still showing the date can sell for $32,200 to $33,400 or more. Collectors especially prize errors where the date and mint mark remain visible because they confirm the coin's identity. One exceptional 1995 dime with a 50% off-center strike and full date visible sold for around $375 in an online auction, proving that even tiny imperfections can lead to big payouts. Another remarkable variety is the clipped planchet error. During production, the mint uses large sheets of metal to punch out blank planchets for coins. Sometimes, the punching process overlaps, creating planchets with curved bites taken out of their edges. These are called curved clips, and depending on their size and visibility, they can be worth between $21,150 and $23,150. Double or triple clips, which happen when multiple punches overlap in different places, can raise the value significantly, often surpassing $28,200. A 1995 dime with two perfectly curved clips on opposite sides once sold for over $30,250. An incredible sum for what started as a simple 10-cent piece. Then there are broad strike errors, which occur when the retaining collar that holds the planchet in place during striking fails, allowing the metal to expand outward. The result is a coin that appears stretched and slightly larger in diameter than normal, with no defined rim. These are visually striking and easily recognizable, often fetching between $16,175 and $18,200, depending on condition and clarity. A bright, uncirculated 1995 P broadstrike dime in mint condition once fetched $14,190 in a private sale among collectors. Perhaps the most eye-catching and valuable errors are the double strikes and multiple strikes. These happen when a coin fails to eject properly after being struck, causing it to be hit again, sometimes with a slight rotation or shift between strikes. The outcome is a coin that shows overlapping images or double designs, creating a surreal and distorted effect. These coins can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on how dramatic the doubling is. For instance, a 1995 D dime showing a distinct second strike, rotated by about 40 degrees, sold for nearly $21,200 at auction because of how visually obvious the error was. Another intriguing error type is the wrong planchet strike, where a Roosevelt dime design is accidentally struck on a blank meant for a different denomination or even a foreign coin. For example, some 1995 dimes have been found struck on penny planchets, making them slightly larger and copper-colored instead of the standard silver appearance. Others have appeared on planchets meant for foreign currencies or other denominations, like the 5-cent nickel. These rare wrong planchet errors are incredibly valuable, often bringing in $32,000 to $35,000 depending on the type and rarity. A particularly rare 1995 D Roosevelt dime struck on a copper planchet, weighing around 3.1 grams, the same as a Lincoln cent, sold at auction for over $4,000 when authenticated and graded by PCGS. Such errors occur when leftover or misplaced planchets from other denominations find their way into the presses, a rare but fascinating glimpse into minting mishaps. There are also struck-through errors, where a foreign object, like a piece of cloth, wire, or grease, becomes lodged between the die and the planchet during striking. This causes part of the design to appear missing, indented, or weakly struck. Minor grease strikes can be subtle, with portions of the design looking faded or incomplete, and typically sell for around $20 to $50. But more dramatic struck-through examples, such as those involving foreign material embedded into the surface of the coin, can bring in hundreds of dollars. A 1995 dime struck through a piece of wire, leaving a deep groove across Roosevelt's face, sold for nearly $300. A price that shows just how much collectors value visible, tangible minting accidents. Die cracks and cuds also add intrigue to the 1995 dime series. Over time, the immense pressure used to strike coins causes stress fractures in the dies. These cracks manifest as raised lines on the coin's surface, often running across the design or through the inscriptions. When a piece of the die actually breaks off, the resulting coins have a raised, blob-like area known as a cud, typically along the edge. Small die cracks are common and usually fetch around $10 to $20, but larger and more dramatic cuds can bring $150 to $300 or more, especially when they visibly distort the portrait or lettering. The 1995 proof dimes minted in San Francisco can also exhibit fascinating errors. Because proof coins are struck multiple times with specially polished dies to produce sharp details and mirror-like surfaces, errors in proof coins are exceedingly rare. But when they occur, their rarity and visual contrast make them highly sought after. Proof dimes with double strikes, off-center strikes, or missing layers of cladding have sold for well over $21,000 at major auctions. One of the most famous 1995 Roosevelt dime errors is the missing clad layer variety. The copper-nickel outer layer fails to adhere properly to the copper core, resulting in a coin that appears partially or entirely copper-colored. A full missing clad layer dime looks like a copper penny but retains the dime's size and design. Such coins weigh less than normal and are easily verified by experts. These can sell anywhere between $15,300 and $18,600, depending on their condition. A 1995 P dime missing its outer clad layer on the obverse side fetched $480 at auction, making it one of the most intriguing modern errors of the series. As with any collectible, condition and authentication play a huge role in determining value. Coins certified by grading services like PCGS, NGC, or Anax command much higher prices than raw examples because buyers have confidence in their authenticity. Even small errors that might go unnoticed by untrained eyes can become valuable once verified. It's not uncommon for a collector to send in what appears to be an ordinary dime, only to discover it's an off-metal or double-struck example worth hundreds of dollars. What's most fascinating about the 1995 Roosevelt dime error coins is how they continue to surprise collectors nearly 3 decades later. They serve as a reminder that no matter how advanced minting technology becomes, the human element and mechanical unpredictability still leave room for fascinating imperfections. Every misaligned strike, clipped edge, or missing layer tells a story. A brief moment in time when the perfect rhythm of the mint's machinery faltered, creating something unique. For collectors, the excitement often begins in the most ordinary places. In pocket change, cash drawers, or even parking lot finds. Imagine finding a coin that looks slightly off, perhaps missing part of its rim or showing a design that's shifted to one side. That small difference could mean the difference between 10 cents and hundreds of dollars. The thrill of discovery, the possibility that a common dime might be hiding a rare error, continues to drive collectors to examine every coin they encounter.